thank goodness Molly is flexible. She's the one doing the presentation. She'll slide down to B, and we'll just save all their event volunteers to C. You guys follow me on all that?
Sounds good.
So I guess, do we have a motion to make that adjustment to the agenda?
To change the agenda to move up the work plan as stated.
Okay, great. Second? All right, Lisa, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, no nays. Okay, so we've adjusted the agenda. Anybody on for public comment? Is
See a hand up under attendees.
we do have a Scott. Okay. All right, Scott, we're bringing you on here. Can you hear us, Scott? Great. Yeah. Hey, Scott, maybe just a quick brief intro to you and to us, and from you to us, and then yeah, let's hear what you have to say. Yeah.
With Colorado State University, it's called the Grid and Energy Institute, the Grid Modernization Institute group up at Colorado State in Fort Collins. And this is headed up by Brian Wilson, Dr. Brian Wilson, and Sanji Wade. She's also a doctor. I've met with them, and we're pursuing a grant opportunity with the Department of Energy and trying to use this site potentially as a demonstration for grid resiliency and security against threats on encroaches on microgrids. So the Colorado State University feels like this is a relative subject that's really hot topic because of the impacts that data centers are having on the power grid. And then this could be also a great opportunity to demonstrate a modern grid opportunity to work with the Xcel Energy grid that exists for Superior and other jurisdictions impacted by the fire. So this would be a post-wildfire opportunity to work with the Department of Energy, Colorado State University in this grid modernization initiative, and going after a grant to help pay for making this a demonstration for best practices on creating a microgrid, which could expand outwards from my location and serve other areas of the town of Superior if they find this to be of interest. So I just want to say hello and introduce myself, and that's my little pitch. Thank you.
I have a question for Scott. Hi, Scott. My name is Jen Couch. I'm one of the council members. So is this the same project that you brought to the council recently?
Say hello because I was trying to reach Molly, but the time was short because I had a meeting with the Department of Energy today, and I had to hear with CSU the outcome of that. And that's kind of why I'm just saying hello during this 5-minute say hello opportunity. But yeah, Jeffrey, I did ask him. He said this would be the right avenue to reach through the liaison, staff liaison for each committee.
Okay, thanks, Scott. And I'll let Martin speak to it.
Yeah.
Scott, it's nice to talk to you. Just like you and I have shared in the past, and we've been with this committee in the past, we'd be glad to help shepherd through any information you'd like to share with the group. But as a development application that is brought forward, this group's purview is just going to be associated with the elements that are part of their enabling resolution. So the information you'd like to share is great. And if we can get you on an upcoming agenda, we will to share that information. But there is not a role for this group in your development application.
Right. So it's just nothing to do with the actual development application, just information sharing about what we're trying to do.
And it sounds great.
Much
Yeah, I
appreciated.
mean, we're open to it, or again,
Yeah.
just wanna make sure we're following the proper process. And
Yeah.
Scott, I'm just talking out loud.
Sure.
So we make sure they're not to, volunteering something that maybe we're not in the right order here, so.
Yeah,
Any citizen, any resident who wants to share some information with a committee or an advisory group is
Yeah.
always welcome to share.
Okay.
Just depends on time and then how much time you'll need, Scott. So why don't you and I follow up, maybe later this week or early next week, and then you can share with me, give me a sense of what you're looking to share and how much time you need, so we can make sure we're on the agenda.
okay, yeah, critically, I'll say this last thing. The whole PhD staff up there, there's 3 of them, and they would dedicate a fellow, postdoctorate fellow to this project. So they're ready to come down and do a presentation if this committee is willing to. So Martin, I'll definitely take that with you offline later. But I wanted to mention
Okay,
that.
great.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Scott. That was good talking to you.
everybody. Okay, nice talking
Yeah,
to you.
thanks, Scott. Yeah.
All right,
good to
thank
see
you.
Some stuff.
All right,
All right.
bye-bye.
Have a good night.
You too.
Let's see, is Mark one of us, or is that another individual?
Not somebody I'm familiar with. So there's an attendee on, Mark Fagucci is the name that's shown on Zoom. Mark, if you'd like to speak, this is your chance.
Did he get a name?
And he's just listening.
I think if you scroll over his name, does it say allow to talk?
He would raise his hand.
Yeah, that I have heard is.
Okay. All right.
But you're welcome to observe, and if there's something you have a question about Mark, feel free to follow me afterwards.
All right. Okay. So I guess that closes public comment. So let's go ahead and turn the spotlight over to you, Jen.
I'm trying to, I have a summary. So, on the 7th of November, I attended the RAC retreat, and, it was a 9 to 3 p.m., like a full day to discuss ideas and concepts and really how to move the blueprint, the strategy blueprint for what strategies are going to try to implement or explore to implement in the next 5 years, to meet air quality goals. It is an interesting group of people, of mixed dynamics. You've got people who think that they're not doing enough, and then people who think they're doing too much, and all smashed in the same room. And so it's great to be able to engage more informally with those folks. But they did endorse the blueprint, the control strategy blueprint. So I'll send that out to you guys. Let's see what else. I don't think I have any more updates on anything else. That one specifically it had been going back and forth for quite a while. And so there was a lot of tweaking of language, and then so it was great that there was a final, okay, we're endorsing this as a group. It's kind of like a comp plan though. I mean, it doesn't hold any legal weight. It's just kind of this is where we're going to try to go directionally. Other than that, I don't think I have any more updates, but I'll send that to you guys. Thank you.
Great. Okay. All right, Martin, anything from town staff?
Yeah, so the staff updates, Alexis always does such a great job assembling these for y'all. So I'll just touch on these. So you get stuck with me at this meeting. Thank you for your patience. The sustainability specialist interviews we finished last week, and we have successful candidate who will be starting December 8th.
Yes,
That's fast.
that's fantastic.
It was a great candidate. It really was difficult.
Are you able to share out who you're hiring by name? Yes, 70% of them or not?
I'm gonna wait till she starts.
Sounds good.
Yeah, makes sense.
The schedule for next month. So the holiday schedules, like you guys all know, always get a little tough to work around. So not planning a December joint meeting with Lafayette and Louisville, just like Alexis mentioned in this update. And then there wasn't anything scheduled for next month's group for ACES next month. Just recognizing this is just a tough time of year to get quorum. The grant update. So on the town council's agenda was a decision on moving forward with the TDM grant. So the energy office is moving forward with funding over multiple years to work on TDM policies. So think like eco passes or ways to induce higher ridership in RTD and get people out of single occupancy vehicles and into other options. This is funding to help pay for that policy work to get done, to develop an ordinance, and then to actually pilot some actual work happening. So this is hundreds of thousands of dollars in the next couple of years. So this is a great job by Jeffrey. Scott mentioned Jeffrey Weathers. He's been the lead in the planning and building staff that's been marshaling the resources to move forward with this, along with Alexis and with Brooke on the financing. So good news there. And I think last month, Alexis shared the Dr. Cog grant is moving forward. So been a lot of stuff going on here to end the year, and a lot of great news with some grant funding available. And if you haven't had a chance to check out the new Miss Peel video, you have to click on this later, please. It's one to watch if you haven't watched it yet. But that's been great. So over the last couple of months, I think September was the official rollout of the compost education and behavior change program. And it's been great. If you didn't have a chance to meet Miss Peel yet, it comes to events or go to anything where it's been great to have the folks that have been doing this consulting work for us kind of just reframe what compost is and how to approach it. It's been very informative. And then next last update, so budget. So the items, the swag items, I think, for the holiday events coming up, the smart chargers, fabric gift bags, gift wrap, and then the mesh produce bags. Those are all ordered, and you guys, the discretionary is now used.
That's great. Look, the first time I think we've used them up in a while.
Oh, really? Well,
Feels like
congratulations.
That's good.
And then in a box for emphasis, Alexis put in here upcoming events. So the holiday bazaar on the 6th, Winterfest on the 13th. So tabling for 2 holiday events. And then like Alexis included in here. So 6th from 10 to 3. And then is this the one that Michelle, you were gonna be the lead?
Yeah, we have quite a bit of our team who stepped up to also.
Oh, okay,
We'll talk about this later on the.
Yeah, it's technically on the
Okay.
agenda, so we
Okay, so come after that.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
yeah,
That's it for staff updates.
I have one more thing that you reminded me of. So there was a grant approved for ADU education support. So essentially, I think the planning department is going to use those funds to promote ADUs and do some education on it, and then also come up with some pre-approved ADU planning plans. And so I see a lane in there for the sustainability side of things to incorporate. I don't know what that's going to look like, but just a heads up that that's something they'll be working on over the next several months. So I'll make the connections where it's appropriate for getting feedback on those as they get developed.
Yeah, it was another one of the really good news items to kind of end the year to have a really successful grant application, because like you guys know, grants take an inordinate amount of energy to try to go through and submit, and to get 3 in a row like this has been really great.
Yeah, and those will be focused on like ADUs on the property or transition basements and Rock Creek ADUs. So trying to give folks some options for staying where they are if they don't want to manage a large home, and maybe just that there are options for it, and trying to help that along.
That's a accessory dwelling unit.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yep, that's what it is.
Google help.
Yeah.
So the
Do you think
people
that, like,
that
an in-laws-
stay in their ADU and rent out the big house, is that the
If they
idea?
want, if I'm looking like as kind of like at a senior lens, if they're in a big house and they don't want to leave their property, but maybe they want to maximize the ability to rent it out or transition a basement. So maybe if they're, want to rent that out, or if they want to live in it, or there's all kinds of ways it can look. But really trying to work on, Rock Creek they've passed, the state passed legislation that prohibits HOAs from preventing ADUs. And so they still have to stay in the ACC guidelines, but it's a way to educate folks on like what's available, maybe some funding options, and some pre-approved plans that would lower the cost, so that if there's something they're interested in, that they could do. So
Cool.
Is this developed around developing additional housing where there's housing shortages,
Yes.
affordable housing units, things like
Different
that?
types.
In different types,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. The point is to have, in addition to the big houses on big lots here in Rock Creek, have some additional alternatives that would be smaller and potentially more affordable, with folks that are on all spectrum of their family situation, whether you have elderly parents that need to live there, or if they're looking for a way to stay in that big house or the smaller house. And then just add some additional housing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a big deal to get through the state level, and then trying to find ways to connect it and make it real for folks that perhaps have been in Rock Creek for 20 or 30 years and not necessarily thinking about number one, what an ADU is, let alone how to build it. So having, just like Jen described, some education about what it is, some approved design plans that have already gone through a review process with town staff, and then the ACC sign off for the Rock Creek HOA, and then hopefully having some pilot funding or some seed money or grant money or some ways to help people bridge the gap between, hey, I have an idea, and then actually moving forward with it to add for town's housing stuff.
He's so good at this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
That was great.
Well, I've been looking at it for a while.
So how does this not get crossed over with like Airbnb and VRBO?
Short term versus long term.
Okay, all right, so the ADU, someone has to stay there a minimum amount of time.
Yeah, the short-term rental is typically 30 days or less, and so I think the
So-
Creek HOA. has
We have a
some
policy
standards.
for short-term rentals.
Well, I know we had and that's what I was asking. I figured it was all good there. I was just kind of curious.
Yeah, everybody has the same question. A lot of people after the fire rebuilds were thinking that they were going to use their one of their units as a short-term rental.
Yeah.
But the standards that the council ultimately approved required some very specific standards and affidavit to show that you're in compliance with everything associated with it. And then it's up to some of the neighborhood staff in additional detail.
So is the council now, it was up to the HOA to enforce people not doing Airbnbs, but because of this new rule, is council overseeing all of town when it comes to people trying to do Airbnbs and they shouldn't be doing Airbnbs? Like how would?
The easiest way to explain ordinances really is that the baseline begins with the town and our ordinances. If you ever want to do something that's over and above and more specific, as long as it's allowed by the state, then your HOA can do it. So if you wanted to say that your short-term rental had to have a green roof, that's great. The town just requires that you have a roof. But if your HOA has a design standard that needs to be enforced, that would be over and above that minimum standard. That's the easiest way to literally think about anything associated with an ordinance versus an HOA or a covenant control community.
Okay.
And you're allowed to have them. You just have to register them, and there's a process for establishing this a short-term rental.
The Rock Creek HOA doesn't allow Airbnbs. Is we reported one a few years ago and they got kicked out. Unless the rules have changed in the last couple of years. This is literally, a couple of years ago during COVID.
I think
It's changed.
It's
it's just because there's
Yeah,
folks who
there's one,
they
yeah.
operate them, like
So
they.
the Rock Creek
Yeah.
HOA changed the
The Rock
rules on
Creek HOA.
Airbnbs.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and our HOA had
There
a
was a it's a
requirement.
combination of a lot of factors.
30 days.
The short-term rental license program that the council approved last year has taken us several months with the software company to begin that, how to license them and run them and manage them over time and just develop the infrastructure to run them. It was, just like I mentioned after the fire, a lot of people wanted to have some additional units. So,
Yeah, this was before the fire.
we always knew that they were happening, and
Yeah.
there was never really an effective way to manage them or license them or coordinate and make sure that all the life safety things that you want to have at an ADU or a short-term or a long-term rental were being complied with. This gives us that ability.
So can an HOA prohibit short-term rentals?
Oh, I don't want to speak for the HOA.
Yeah, I think it's probably HOA questions.
Because our HOA has in our
It's whatever's in your covenants.
covenants, no rentals less than 30 days. Is that allowed?
I think I'm familiar with Calmontes, and I think the Rock Creek AOA, I haven't looked at them in a while, but they do have a minimum.
Yeah,
But it's
I'm
up
in
to them
Coal
to
Creek
determine.
Crossing HOA.
So your minimum is 31 days.
31 days or more.
Oh, okay, so that's okay.
Yeah.
Because it's over and above.
But you're allowed to have an ADU, but it has to.
You can decide
meet
how
the
you want.
HOA.
Your HOA can decide how
Okay.
your covenant is.
All right, that's what
And just as
answers
a
my question.
informational sidebar, I know the chamber is working on information on what the rules are and how, if you're going to consider renting things for Sundance, what that looks like based on all the different neighborhoods in the community. So that'll be interesting to see
Yeah.
what the lanes are for that stuff.
Yeah, because that'd be under 30 days, right?
Oh, Sundance, yeah.
All right, thanks for the update.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's well, no, just more of a curiosity.
Well, it's interesting because we don't have affordable housing on our sustainability action plan, but I think we have all agreed sustainable living in Superior is a key goal.
Yeah, consolidating
Desire.
resources, absolutely. And then just like Jen mentioned, having Sundance come in And different jurisdictions around Boulder County will be thinking what short-term rentals look like and how to make them available for folks that are here a little before, maybe a little after, and then that 2 weeks of the festival itself, trying to make that as easy as possible for folks to take advantage of and have it be something that's integrated with the community, just like Jen's describing, and then not have it be something that's, got a lot of rules associated with it that are different from community to community. So between now and a couple of years from now, we've got some work to do, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
Exactly.
Awesome stuff. All right, well, let's turn the page here. I guess let's jump into the work plan. I don't know, Martin, do you want to share your?
I can.
Did anybody, you can tell the truth, it's a safe space, but did anybody get a chance to look at this work plan before tonight?
I did. I didn't want to touch the document though.
You did or did not, John? Okay.
I didn't even.
I gave it a review, and I, of course, welcome all your feedback. Would like to make this as efficient as possible. I just had 3 questions or comments. I guess for some reason I couldn't edit this. Is that normal? Is it normally locked out? Not that I needed to, I just think.
No, everybody had, so I had to open it. So I'm glad you asked that question. I thought I was the only one. So if I open it in Dropbox, I'm not allowed to make any changes.
That's what I did.
Open
Okay.
in, and then I just pick Word.
Oh,
And this
that's what I did wrong.
I thought I was
everyone.
No, I thought
I
it was
don't want to change it there because there's so much in there. I'd rather discuss it here because I didn't want to put something in that we all didn't agree to. So
Well,
I have a couple things to add.
I think in the interest of time, I didn't want to go line item by line item. Like, I'd rather you all just read it here and then just have comments. But I mean, I have a couple comments. Why don't we start with you, Michelle? What were some things that caught your eye?
Specifically on the waste collection, one day I was walking and I watched Vargas take out the trash and recycling in our parks. And just so you'll know, the trash and recycling are all blended in and trashed and doing that. So if anybody is dropping an aluminum can in our parks and it says recycling, it is not getting recycled because it's too contaminated. And that's given. So I think what I've asked Alexis, I said, could we put this on there to work with assessing what that waste volume looks like, do our own assessment, and come up with recommendations to capture any valuable recyclables to be diverted. Whether that be messaging and say, take this home and recycle it, or have a special container for aluminum cans. I don't know what that looks like, but I'd like to put that on the work plan next year in 2026 and study that.
This is specifically for the recycling cans in the public park areas.
And
Yeah, I was gonna say public trash cans.
Yeah.
Should we just maybe make that a general comment, review, I don't know, public,
study.
public, review quantity of public trash cans,
I
how the
know.
waste is picked up, how is it disposed of?
And it's
how we
something
generalize that.
John, who used to be on our committee, have brought up a number of times that maybe those need to be replaced.
Yeah, we've
Once-
talked about it for a budget recommendation for the town too. It's just,
Yeah.
half of them have the lids are blown off at this point.
Yeah. And if they're not even being
Yeah.
segregated.
And I'd say
why
90% of everything
have-
that goes in it is
why
probably
say
dog waste.
recycle?
Exactly, it is, and it
Yeah.
gets put in the wrong thing, or a can of soda gets dumped in the recycling side, and it's messy, and the bags don't have holes in, so when we get rain.
Yeah, I like that. You like that bullet?
The way you
that,
put it,
Martin?
I
that's
think
great.
that's good.
Yeah.
I like that, thank you.
All right, what else do you have,
Study
Michelle?
option. So I'm looking at our contract with Jensen and the group that did this PO is over. But looking at the long term, I would like to put a study and come up with a plan for a 4-year plan. So we know what the messaging is. For instance, we have right now downtown is on compost. We know in 2028 Rock Creek will come on. So that message gets nuanced. And so what should we be focusing on? Alexis was talking about working with multifamily units in 2026. What would that message be? So I would like to put on here that we look at a 4-year plan for our,
something with multifamily in here, maybe down further below.
yeah, she has that on her plan, I know. And I would like to add,
Yeah, right here,
citizen
equity, second bullet, ongoing efforts, consider ways to better reach, engage, offer programming to multifamily residents.
Right.
and low-income individuals.
I would like under that waste one to add, we come up with a 4-year plan on how we are going to message and what's on the horizon for our recycling and compost and zero waste strategies.
So you think we should develop a recommendation for a 4-year plan?
Yeah,
Who's the audience here for your plan?
us for one,
Well,
ACES for
Rock
one.
Creek and everybody's all
Yeah,
looking at
and
the
so-
same agreement. So what is the, what are we
In
doing?
2028. So in 2026, I'd like to come up with a plan that
Yeah.
covers 2026, 2027, 2028, and 2029
Okay,
for our messaging, because it will, one, help enforce or inform what grants we can go for. Two, it will help us get mileage out of messaging that we're going to do. If we know, for instance, I'll tell you, Every Scrap Matters was brilliant, because Every Scrap Matters can be used for any of those housing or any type of residence. It can also be used for recycling or zero waste. So we can get a lot of mileage out of that. And how would we utilize that? I'd like to see another campaign for Every Scrap Matters down the road, but I don't have a plan. We
Yeah.
don't have a plan.
So if I can jump in, I
Yeah.
think what I like about this is that in 26, there's planning for onboarding future neighborhoods. In 27, there's preparing for that onboarding. Like, I mean, it's kind of the messaging, the preparing for the actual onboarding. 28 is onboarding, measuring, initial contact with new. In 29, we have a renewal for
Yeah.
the town. So it's messaging that renewal and what that's going to look like. So there's something each year that can be its own kind of standalone milestone marker.
yeah.
And so we need to kind of think about what are the actions needed to get to that milestone each year.
I don't think it's a hard action plan item. I just like to put it on
Mhm.
that.
I like where Martin's throwing it right there.
Yeah.
Build off the
Yeah, I like the
educational
roadmap.
opportunities. Is that good?
Yeah,
Okay, well, that's good comment.
thanks.
What else, yeah,
That's it.
that's it. Patrick? I was hoping to have something coherent to put together around like plastic specifically, but I didn't get that far, so I guess 2027 it is. Well, what about plastics?
Yeah.
Improved recycling, improved like education around recycling, and just trying to reduce all the contamination issues that we face with it. But I don't necessarily have anything coherent around that, so.
We can develop the coherency in 2026.
All right, well, that can roll under your educational opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can continue to build.
I'll give you an example. We have the litter pickup kit that we have, that I need to make a video on how to sign out that litter pickup kit from this building. And we haven't finished that at all,
Okay.
so that would be a great,
Okay.
and it's all about microplastics and litter
Okay,
and
great.
reducing plastics.
All right,
It's centered on that.
all right, what about you, John?
Well,
Put you on the spot.
so if I am looking at this, we are telling ourselves that we want to focus on beneficial electrification. Waste, essentially circularity, materials management, waste, recycling. Resilience and water conservation, those two are brought together. And then we also list promoting equity, promoting other key messages, and then, just staffing tables, engaging with folks. And Martin, putting you on the spot, it's not turnabout is fair play.
Ooh, right.
What do you think of, you look at that list, what is missing that would be on the town's, Alexis's work plan that is not on our work plan?
Well, I don't mind you putting me on the spot, but you gotta give me a harder question. I think all the topics here are all on staff's work.
Okay.
So, Alexis and her staff member and me, and then eventually the town manager all kind of sync up on all these topics. And she has a lot of really specific objectives under these broad topics, but I think you touch on all of them.
Okay, that's
Significant overlap.
That's fine. Like, I just wanted to, this is to build off of that conversation we had last month, where I'm more looking at this philosophically. It's like, how are we approaching the work plan? I like having three simple words. That was always a good way for me to go forward with. And in my mind, our role is to advise, liaise, and advocate. Those are the three words that I have been thinking about. How do we advise the town on topics, under the purview of ACES. How do we liaise with others? That's the key thing. That's one of the key things we can do. We are residents. We have, connections, friends, networks. We're involved in this field, so we can be a force multiplier for Alexis and staff and the broader town. So, we can bring a lot of action, but then also advocate. We can drive things forward. And so I just want to make sure that from a topic perspective, we don't have to think too deeply on those 3 words right now. But as long as we're touching on the topics, right, which sounds like we are, then I think that then this is great.
Okay, great. Thank you, John.
Yeah, John, that's a great way to put it. So between the topics, whether it's waste, resiliency, water, equity, and outreach and education, I think the 3 words you're looking for are touched on here, and you have those avenues.
I mean, we are essentially putting carbon within electrification, which I think is generally fine. I think that it's maybe shorthand. It's something that we all understand from our own perspectives. It may be worthwhile us calling that out more specifically, because there are, of course, ways that the town influences climate related activities that are not just energy related, and specifically things tied into how the town can influence the community. And so I think that could be something for us to explore, but I don't know if we need to add something in addition.
I do like your point about an overall carbon exploration.
Well,
Because
so we have I've been calling that decarbonization plan. I think that the actual line item in the budget is a beneficial electrification plan or something like that. Well, what is Martin, there's like $50,000 that was in the budget for 26.
Yes. So yeah, first quarter of next year, we're going to work with somebody that can really help us figure out how to just make that conversion, what that looks like. Again, that roadmap word, that's a word that Alexis and I use a lot. We don't necessarily know what we know or don't know yet. So having somebody come in and help us where the best bang for the buck really is going to be.
So is the scope there limited around electrification, or is it?
That'll be the focus. That's going to be something else. We're going to start with that.
There's a spot here.
For electrification or for the broader?
Well, maybe, I don't know where it is, Martin, is it up or down?
But to your point, how we pay
Or,
for
yeah, right, I think it's that first
town
one.
uses, that falls under your overall.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, so the consultant that we end up working with, a little bit like you guys went through in the waste contract discussion last year.
Yeah.
They'll be involved in helping us figure out what's going to make sense and actually managing the contract and making sure that the objectives and recommendations that are eventually going to end up going to council, you guys have all had a chance to see and be a part of.
so, yeah, I think that first bullet covers it, right? Yeah, support town facility decarbonization planning. And I think
it kind of does, because that really is electrification.
yeah, I mean, but it is to get hired consultant to build a decarbonization roadmap for the town facilities. I think ultimately that's what's taken.
About that.
Well, here's what I would suggest, since Jim gave me the floor.
Yeah,
I'm really flexing on my Robert's Rules of Order, but
go ahead.
so something you guys should pay attention to,
Yeah.
because you're is that in meetings like this, it's still okay to crack jokes.
That's
Sure.
Is exactly. I think we should just I'll kind of look for a place, and I'll nominate. We just add something down in the bottom of saying we explore the broader decarbonization beyond electrification during 2026. We don't have to do anything about it, but let's just look to broaden out. In carbon language, all of the purchase goods and services and capital spend that the town does has carbon ramifications, and we're not paying attention to that yet. And so it's something for us to think about in 26. I don't want to prescribe any action right now, because we don't want to take any action that Alexis doesn't already have on her work plan.
Well, should we just change the bolded heading there of that whole section?
No.
Let's
Let's
we could just change it to implement or support the town on decarbonization activities or something.
Yeah, that's maybe a 27 thing. Let's baby steps. Let's kind of move things. Let's not
All right.
put things in place that Alexis has to do that we're like, oh, we forgot what we meant there.
Yeah.
But to your point, that could look like a document in the Dropbox that we throw ideas in there for 2027.
It would look like us coming back to town council after the electrification plan for a part two.
That's part two.
That would.
Or through that decarb plan, have a roadmap again for some future investment or some future
Yeah.
study.
Well, one thing
So
I
those
was,
grow up.
I've asked Alexis about a number of times is, do we have a greenhouse gas carbon footprint for the
We have
town?
yes, we do.
Has it been, when was it updated last?
When we built the plan, I think, right? 23, 22?
Is it being updated?
I think we do have a dashboard.
Well, we have the
No,
the dashboard
the
information,
greenhouse
but it's
gas
separate.
inventory.
You're looking
is
for an
what I'm talking
inventory.
about.
Yeah, the
You know,
inventory was
scope one,
done.
scope two, scope three.
Yeah, it's been a couple of
Yes.
years, but it's not right now, it's not budgeted. It might make sense to do it in an out year, but
It's not,
I guess
because
I
that.
want to do the decarb plan. We've been talking about this for a couple of
Oh,
years and
yeah.
it's fantastic.
What I'm saying is that can help you
Informed.
prioritize
Mhm.
where is the big impact? I mean, like what John's talking
Yeah,
about,
that's a good
scope, that scope three is talking, is that where we can make the biggest impact?
Mhm.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
we
it's
could
good.
do an
Without
inventory
the
when we built the
inventory.
plan in 2023 for
Oh, we could look
2022.
at
There was a
There-
cumulative number.
It wasn't a
number
broken
of,
out. Okay.
well, it was all the different elements that we could find data on Excel for all each of our buildings.
Aren't we also captured in the Boulder County greenhouse gas footprint? Like I've been to the Boulder County.
Yeah, so each of the jurisdictions within the county, we all assembled whatever information we have and submitted to them, and they included it that kind of global county wide, so you're exactly right.
Yeah, that's where I've seen it.
But if you're, I guess, I think Miles and Lisa are also talking about it, building by building, what exactly is happening in each of these facilities. And
Yeah,
It's a good
that's the
point.
town scope one,
Mhm.
scope two, the electricity is scope two,
Mhm.
and any gas we're burning, scope one.
I'm
That's
just
the
trying to step away from
electricity.
natural gas because it's a tough
That's
spot.
good.
It's a tough spot. We have a number of older facilities,
It's
so
not
from
burning
the inside
coal.
looking out, it's tough because we're looking at facilities that need updating.
Yeah.
And
They have
then the
data.
gas in the cars, that's, scope one. So anyway,
Is that your?
I think that was my
No, no,
point, just helps us prioritize if we know where we're making, how we can make the biggest impact. Which
No,
I
I
imagine your consultant will look
I
at.
appreciate that, yeah, I think that's a good call.
Yeah, including some of these big picture topics, when we have a very specific scope for a consultant to help us with, they're always going to come up with some big bang ideas at the end and say, now that you've done this, here are the next things you're going to want to think
Yeah.
about. Maybe both decarbonization and then this greenhouse. That's
Okay.
probably a good next step topic. Patrick, I don't want to forget, you had mentioned having some plastics incorporated in the recycling. I didn't do a good job of capturing it here. I didn't hear where you thought you made sense. I don't know
if I had an opinion on where it made sense. I think I was trusting Michelle to put in the right spot. Is it about education on recycling?
Yeah,
Plastics? Is that-
yeah.
Yeah, I think education probably makes the most sense. Yeah, I think is this where we just broaden out the language around support waste education? I mean, that plastics is part of that.
And you could say including plastics.
Yeah, I was gonna just put comma here,
Yeah,
just almost as a topic, a reminder to come back to it over the course of
Yeah.
next year.
I think that
Including
would get us,
Yeah.
so we can work on it. Great.
And with the extended producer responsibility legislation kicking in next year, I think there's gonna be a focus on plastics.
Yeah.
So it's a timely topic.
Great.
Something that's gonna come up next year.
Yeah,
Awesome. John, Lisa, combined, before we jump to Miles. You guys.
Well, I think if we have to be in sync with Alexis and her plan.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I mean, with anything, we're just adding on to what's there.
is there
Like, set it
anything
to
else, Martin, that you think we could be doing to help Alexis? And help the town?
Well, I think all the topics in here, I think are fantastic, and you've given yourself enough flexibility
Mhm.
find those overlapping objectives, just like you helped with the town waste contract last year, find some ways through the decarbonization plan, advising us on that, thinking about how the rollout for the residential trash contract is going to get expanded. And then when you talk to Molly on the next topic, you'll hear a little bit about what the future might look like, if it might make sense to propose the council included an admin fee, administrative fee to help cover some of those costs.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of things that are kind of the sweet spot for this
Okay.
group in my mind. You know,
Okay, thanks, that's all.
details that inform policy decisions for the council.
Mhm.
Awesome. Just a couple of things, agree with Michelle's planning for, kind of looking long-term for waste rollout just to get the whole town on the same sync and cycle and adjusted to it, I think is really important. From the electrification side, the second line item, this is promote town residential electrification rebates. The town rebates are going away, but here rebates did launch. So there are HEAR rebates, which are just additional home electrification rebates at the state and federal level are now available. There's also the Dr. Cobb grant for the residential side as that unfolds. So I think it's more just about promoting residential electrification pathways, even more than rebates, because I think you can tell people there's a bunch of money out there, but I think actually telling the story of what people have done to electrify their homes and how it's worked. There's still a lot of myths about heat pumps and their inability to heat and cool a house effectively and things like that, because they do work across the region. So just getting people comfortable with the pathways and the rebates that are out there, because there's a lot of money out there still.
I like the word pathways.
And the town rebates are going away.
I don't believe that Boulder County Energy Smart is doing residential rebates outside of low and middle income qualified rebates, income qualified rebates anymore. Starting in the new year, starting in this calendar new year.
Okay, what about the town Superior ones?
Those, I don't know what,
just a 1
I
year?
think the funds are expired, but I'm not, or they've either been returned or used. And that was a 1 year budget augmentation,
Okay,
so it's a year by year budget piece.
So does it make sense to be promoting them if they're going away?
That's what I'm saying, change it to saying promoting residential electrification pathways, because there's a
Okay,
lot of
right,
other
yeah.
rebates that are not town specific that are
Right.
still available.
Okay, so we need to get rid
It's
of
a good
that.
way to kind of
name,
broaden,
town.
because the county's rebates are gonna become income qualified. Doesn't mean that it's bad, it's just more
No,
narrow,
yeah.
you might qualify for it, but just like Mons was mentioning, think a little bit more broadly about other places.
So don't we need
Yeah.
to delete the word town
That's what we're doing, yes.
in
Yeah.
So, yeah,
in the
so
document?
That's- I
It's still
mean,
there.
yeah,
Promote
Oh, yeah.
town.
well, available, I guess, town or other,
I would just say residential electrification rebates. I think we can get rid of town, pathway,
They're not
yeah,
gonna be there.
yeah.
No sense promoting them.
And that includes also Excel, because they have their clean heat plant still, so there's tons of money on heat pumps and other things. So, there's this, obviously a federal fear, but there's also a ton of local money. Martin just talked about 3 grants the town is getting. I'll say from DPS stands, we got huge positive grant impacts going over the next couple of months. There's a lot of money flowing right now, just not at the federal level. The other thing I was thinking, there's one other thing.
but adding the word resources, rather than just rebates or
Yeah.
Yeah.
resources.
Yeah. You guys all know in Hello Superior, the next issue, John Shalal is going to be featured.
For his own electrification.
And another person. So it's exciting to kick off that messaging.
And I lost my other thoughts, I apologize.
I had a couple things while you're trying to remind
Yeah.
yourself of that. Mike gets credit for putting this bug in my ear, but he was saying that the commercial waste agreements are kind of all over the place. For all the commercial properties and the waste, does that ring the bell? You guys aware of that?
I mean, they do their individual.
Yeah, so I always know if that's a topic, ACES can do some research and data collection, just like what we've done with Rock Creek and Original Town, trying to pull it all together under one. Does the town have any place to encourage commercial to use all common haulers and recycle, recycling?
I think if there were some carrots there for like scale and contracting.
I think that's what would be the carrot, yeah.
I don't see why businesses would not be interested in that, but I don't think the town can have any. To that.
So this is a topic, if I can share this with you. So landlords.
Yeah.
Generally don't care what happens as long as they get their rent checks and their properties are maintained well. They have dedicated areas for their trash enclosures. And if they lose square footage or are responsible for enhancing or increasing the level of service, they're going to increase rent. And that's just like it would be with anything. If it was a roof or expanding something in somebody's property, those costs are going to get passed along. So the town's councils in the past have done what they could to encourage, and we've been a partner with PACE and some other groups to come in and do audits, and have had the owner of the mall across the street and also of the marketplace come in and try to figure out how to have a 2-yard compostable box in their enclosure, and have tried to do some different things in the past, and then also worked on some of the back of house sorting. And those have been great, but they've been smaller. They haven't been systemic ordinances where the town came in and said, thou shalt expand your trash and recyclables and compost collection, and therefore provide that service for your tenants. It's a bigger policy change and a big expense that would be passed on most likely to consumers.
What about, like, obviously grocery stores have to throw away organics every day? Like, is there any requirements that they have to compost those?
Not for the town, I think most of the,
Or they have,
I think they
corporate
are the
policies.
things.
yeah, so they have some corporate gods that they serve.
Yeah.
That's why the giant compactor that's at Costco is always really well run, because they have some financial incentive to minimize what their waste footprint is, and I think Safeway does the same thing.
Okay.
So they have a corporate mandate that is far beyond what the town would. It's a corporate footprint, a corporate mandate to do exactly what they're doing, and they don't have any role in that.
I mean, is there
They do report their information, so.
a role for ACEs to bolster what they're already doing? I guess is the way to put the correct spin on it. You know, we can't take care of it, just find ways we can collaborate, economies of scale, all that kind of, like everything we're doing at the residential level. Why can't we try to, put that model in the commercial?
I think what I'd recommend is what we can do is potentially provide like research of other towns, similar sizes, similar commercial footprints
Yeah.
that have found a solution to this, to reach out to some other sustainability teams across the Front Range, and see if they've been able to do this with their commercial entities. I think it's a huge lift to try to coordinate true action amongst that, like getting their current provider and their costs and their weights and periodicity and their service levels. Like that's just a lot of, I don't know if anybody here has the time to kind of support that, and the town wouldn't either, I would guess.
Well, I think what makes Superior unique to any other city around us is our size, and our commercial businesses are pretty much in two spots.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like we're City of Boulder, like, one
Oh, I'm not talking about, I'm like looking at smaller towns that have consolidated commercial sectors that
One
have
truck is
like,
the whole Superior marketplace,
Right.
You're there.
so let's see if we can find other towns that have success.
Well, yeah.
47 trucks, but
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying, it's just, or the same hauler.
No, it's not the same haul.
That's my whole point.
So that's,
Right.
so the businesses can choose their haulers, and they are required to submit what their collections are, and make that part of our license process, and that gets submitted to the county and is included in the retract system for collective
Oh, that's,
publication.
okay, good.
Well, is there a spot for that on here, I guess? I mean, but now to you guys, we all gotta vote on this thing.
One thing we always talked about was working through the Chamber of Commerce and being a resource to the Chamber of Commerce.
They are on here,
For
yeah,
businesses, so
yeah.
is there a way we could work your thought through?
Because we do have, I think the chamber is like under an energy topic here, or sustainability, but maybe this falls under that bullet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the red bullet, the second one from the bottom, and the beneficial electrification could be extended to cover what you're talking
I
about.
mean, we could just take the word energy out, just make it sustainability, and we're kind of covering all of it, right?
Gives us the flexibility.
Yeah.
I mean, I like specificity, so we remember what we meant, when we look at this thing
Well,
monthly.
energy and solid waste. Or I don't know. Learn more
And
about-
the way I read this document, the word explore means let's look into an idea that we're not sure if it's a good idea or not yet.
Yeah,
And so it sounds like a good idea, but also there's all sorts of market dynamics that can make it more challenging.
yeah,
And so kind of what Miles' point was, we could add that, I assume would be into waste collection services,
Yeah,
major bullet.
I don't think it's.
To explore opportunities for, enhancing commercial, waste management in our, commercial areas of the town. And then it would probably look like what Miles said, so that was see if anybody else is trying to approach this, and probably bring in Stephen from Republic Services and,
yeah.
sure.
that.
Good idea.
Well, I think the goal here is a win-win, save them money
Right.
and be more
Yeah,
sustainable about their waste, it's not to pick apart what they're
If
doing.
they could all get together and jointly do a contract, they would get economies of scale and lower all of their service levels, but that takes time and effort on their part to do, and they just haven't put that in yet, I hear exactly what you're saying. I think it's a great idea. I don't think we can do it. I think we can provide support.
Yeah,
Maybe that can be part of our 4-year plan when we work in the commercial consolidation later.
okay. All right,
Does it sound like Martin is aware and Alexis is aware of what each of these commercial businesses are doing? It's just not a priority right now for 2026. And we could add the exploration on our part, and that kind of raises it for 2027.
okay. Well,
He's added it.
Yeah,
maybe just start the conversation.
exactly. Start the conversation.
So Monty, kind of sounds like you're talking about best practices, so that's why I just put the word.
Commercial diversion, yeah,
The retail center.
that works for me.
Okay, does that work for you guys?
Sure.
My second comment was, I feel like we've approached this, you guys are going to have to remind me, but I feel like we've talked about this with Alexis before, but on the similar scale of the solar rewards or the solar program of consolidating or
Bulk buy solar.
like doing, getting, a couple contractors approved and, the economies of scale again, but doing that for like a heat pump, electrification program. And then bring in like an Elephant Energy or,
There's a pilot running right now on that, actually.
But
Power
like,
Core communities.
but kind of grouping, the Boulder County, like, it starts at Superior or it's all Boulder County.
Right now, it's
Some sort of electrification program and.
So I think Dr. Cog will eventually take reins of this, and it is part of Dr. Cog's plan. But it's the bulk buy of heat pumps with a single contractor for
Yes,
generally now aimed at income qualified at the moment. I'll send you some information up, but that is kind of happening. I don't know when their plan or how their plan is to scale it.
well, I think that sitting on the website is good, but the solar one actually involved bailers to all of us and direct communication.
Yeah.
And pinging on the town of Superior's communication avenues and letting people know,
Right.
hey, there's a discount program if you're interested in getting a bid for a heat pump.
This was a cherry picked invite program for a
Yeah.
pilot, not a broadly accepting applicants program.
Okay,
So when it's ready for that, I think then we can bring it forward as a Superior supported program. But until it's proven out, and I'll let you know, there's a lot of bumps from personal experience. It needs to be proven before it can be grown. But the model is sound.
Are you staying on top of that?
I was investigating doing it. It did not come back the way that I had
Wanted it.
expected.
this is you personally?
Personally.
Okay.
So maybe we can
Is
stay
there,
on top of it.
is that something we want to add, some sort of heat pump program similar to the solar model?
Not yet. It doesn't exist yet, is what I'm saying. The actual model to do it, like there's no company like Sun Neighborhoods that's doing it.
Yeah, okay.
So it's only in a pilot stage, and that pilot's probably it's probably a 2-year pilot or so, I would say, maybe.
Like, what was the catalyst behind the solar program?
County.
County,
This
well,
is a-
The Boulder
Yeah.
County put it together.
They did,
They stepped up.
and there were entities already in play doing this across the nation.
How much solar together?
Solar United Neighborhoods, Solar Together. So
Because that thing was like a Seattle,
there's
nonprofit that created it.
exactly, there's 2 or 3 nonprofits driving that exact model across the country. There's no model that is being driven across anywhere right now, other than this pilot that I know of.
Okay, so we're a little ahead of.
We're ahead of it.
So it's coming.
It's coming.
It'd be nice for the heat pumps to have something in place for when your furnace goes out, you have to replace it, right? And it'd be
Yeah,
nice,
that's always the
It was-
case, right? It's that emergency.
and you need
It's
it right
middle there,
now,
and I don't have a heater.
so some kind of.
Well, that would be part of the marketing, hey, Rock Creek, we know all your furnaces are between 15 and 25 years old. Hey, here's your chance to hop on top of economies of scale and a discount, electrifying your home, and that'd be all
Get
part
them
of the message.
to
There's
buy these
Mhm.
before their furnace goes out.
Exactly, yeah, you got proactive.
That's what you're pretty happy.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's more rebates out there available than what the pilot is offering. So I would get a better deal doing it on my own than with this bulk buy pilot right now.
oh, really?
Yes.
That's
Are
interesting.
they all income qualified?
No, the Excel rebates are, it's like $2,100 a ton
Yeah.
or something like that. I mean, it's significant
Significant.
rebates.
Okay,
It went up from 750 ton last year.
question. I talked to somebody this week who just installed the heat pump, but also mentioned that he had to put it at backup.
First.
He was talked into putting in a backup gas furnace.
And I was like, I
He
don't
was
think
tucked
you
into
have to
putting-
do that,
You don't.
but I didn't.
Scenarios are different for everybody. So like if a heat pump was being installed in an area that was very cold and tight and there's not a lot of airflow, then there's a potential for that if they didn't get a cold climate heat pump, which generally is not allowed here in this area, you'd want a gas backup or something like that, but you have electric systems.
I have electric
Yes, and there's, Exactly.
Because I think they're going to upsell
It's-
whatever they can. And
Yeah.
it's just to make sure people know, are informed, because I think he was like, did what they did.
It's shifting, but yeah,
Okay.
it's certainly not a necessity. these
I was like,
days.
what's the point if you're putting in the other thing also, and
It's the trades, they're, what are they comfortable with and what are they,
Yeah.
know they're not gonna get yelled at.
It can be done. We're putting in our second all-electric school in DPS. We have one with electric resistance backup, the other one with electric resistance backup as well.
But to your point, we collectively have experience that we could help people making this decision
Yeah.
and provide educational opportunities.
And there's lots of organizations that do this on the regular that people just don't know
Exactly.
about.
he did say it was about 19K and you paid 11.
Yeah,
With
that's
the-
exactly, yeah.
Wow,
He bumps her about half.
That's
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
yeah.
All right, so is there anything on this topic worth putting on here or just?
I mean, the only thing, we already
I think
have
you just
ongoing
put that
customer, like residential electrification
We
education,
do,
right?
yeah.
So that covers all,
that.
Okay,
because I
A
think we
lot of
need,
elements of beneficial electrification have been part of the work that this group has done, and then Alexis has some stuff scheduled over the next couple of months. Like
Right.
last month, you guys talked about some of the energy code updates.
Right.
Was that
Yes.
last month?
yeah, that was.
So there's gonna be a lot of discussion on beneficial electrification over the next few months.
That's
right. This isn't gonna fall off your radar.
And then the last thing is if you scroll up, Martin, please, the town RFP. I think she had something specific or keep on going up. Yeah, that,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, explore recommending a specification related to, I would just make that sustainability. Like a sustainability specification for town RFPs, because it doesn't have to be just about energy, it could be about water efficiency, recycling materials, all that kind of stuff.
this should be about incorporating sustainability element in all RFPs that the
Correct.
sends out
Correct.
beyond.
Yeah, that the contractor has to plan in their bid and their price to
Yep.
cover meeting the town's sustainability action plan requirements.
I like it.
And I believe I flipped an example for City of Golden that they have a spec that they include with all their RFPs. I think I sent that to you guys all. I can shoot it back out to ACES again. And it's a public document, public RFP. I can,
Yeah.
or not the RFP itself, but the spec. I can share
Yeah.
with
And
you
we
guys.
can collect other ones. There's a lot of public institutions that have kind of there's blurbs and then there's requirements.
So I feel like, Mike and maybe it's just Mike are beating up these, and Jen can attest to this, beating up these contractors and these proposals coming to council.
Yeah.
To build a new public works building in the North Pool, and they're like deer in the headlights, on sustainability questions Mike has, and I think they need to know going into these bids that they need to factor sustainability.
Yeah, I'll bring we have a TPS too, because we have a sustainability scoring section.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So it's a minimum scoring comparatively, but it does count towards the overall score.
Yeah,
So
That's great.
and we need to be hiring the right contractors that can actually, professionally talk about sustainability on their bids.
Right.
And better best.
Yeah.
Like the gas boiler versus the solar system for the North Pool.
Yeah.
So, okay, those are my three bullets. Did you remember? what
I
you
did,
said?
but it's already in there to support grants. I think it's up above Vermont staffing in the beneficial electrification. Just that they're opening up another round of the large building decarbonization grant from the state level in the summer of this year. So they'll have $8 million for public building electrification. So there will be a grant we can support them with in the beneficial electrification if Alexis wants to go for it. So it's more of an FYI.
Cool.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mhm.
any other comments? So what do we do here? Do we just accept everything and just read it one more time?
Well, yes,
Or do we-
if there's some wordsmithing, I can come back to that, work with Alexis, and then we'll send you out a final version. I'm not,
So do
but
we,
if we get a motion saying that this in substantially the same form
yeah,
is agreeable for the group to make as a recommendation to town council, then they'll have this in their meeting packet at one of the meetings, I think it's in January.
is you guys ready to make a motion?
I move to accept our 2026 draft work plan.
Great. Any-
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No nays? No horsies? Okay, 6-0. Nice, her plan. All right, thanks, guys, that was great.
It's exciting.
So I guess, is Molly around?
Molly sure is.
Molly is, all right. Molly, well, thanks for hanging out while we work through that, so, I guess, do you wanna go, we'll turn the mic over to you on waste administrative fee presentation.
Yeah, I will
You need to be able to share your screen or see how.
I
it is,
am
you know?
going to do that.
Okay.
And host disabled participant screen sharing. I might need help having permission to share.
Yeah, you can share around target, okay? I think Martin's looking into those settings right now.
Sounds like the kind of thing I should be able to do something of. So
Is it in the,
If you click on Molly's in the participant
is
list.
it on Molly? It's
Three dots.
It sends us.
Make co-host.
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah, you can make you're now so you got it.
There you go, Molly.
It's a big responsibility.
All right,
How about now?
let's see. I think. Let's see here. Okay. Now. Let's. All right, let's try from. Hold on. Share. And.
We can see it.
All right. And are you okay? Here we go. This looks like. Can I get a quick confirmation? This looks like the presenter, like you're seeing the correct view of this.
Yes. Yes.
Lovely. All
Yeah,
right.
this is great, Molly.
Well, now that we've overcome the tech hurdles, let's get started. First of all, my name is Molly Saylor. I own and operate MKS Sustainability Consulting. And actually, for many, many years, I worked for the city of Fort Collins in a lead waste policy role. And since I guess it's been about 2 years now, have been running my own consulting company, just being able to share that expertise with other communities in Colorado and actually around the country. And so it's really fun to get to present to a board and commission in sort of my neck of the woods. And yeah, also get to talk about something that I find really exciting and fascinating. Maybe is a little bit nerdy, but I think this is probably the right crowd for that kind of enthusiasm. So let's talk about the waste hauling administrative fee study that I conducted for the town of Superior. And what I was envisioning for our conversation today is to just do a little bit of level setting, then talk about the residential hauling program in Superior and how it's evolved over time and how it may continue to evolve in the next few years. I'll talk a little bit about the fee study process and then how that led to some key findings. And then there are some considerations that have been sort of brought up through the key findings that I think will be interesting for continued discussion and exploration for your commission and also for your town council. And then I'll leave you with some next steps and we can go into some conversation as well as answering any questions you may have. So just to level set, what is an administrative fee? Administrative fees are charged to recover costs associated with programs. So in this case, we're talking about local government administering residential waste hauling programs. These fees typically cover direct costs of administering programs, for example, staff time to manage billing or negotiate contracts, the cost of education and outreach about program requirements or changes, all of that work that goes in to sort of keeping the program going. Some fees that we see in Colorado and other places also cover more indirect costs that support the program's success overall, such as hosting household hazardous waste collection events. Recovering administrative costs can really help shield local governments from the impacts of budget cuts because then the program has its own dedicated funding. And really that increased program financial sustainability can mean more consistent service provision to the community. So you can also see here some examples that are regional administrative fees across sort of our region in Colorado. There's 4 shown here. And I included this here just as a frame of reference, but also to just show these are increasingly common for Colorado communities that have contracted residential waste hauling programs. So you see Lafayette, Fort Collins, Arvada, and Louisville all have those. And it's been especially fun because I was involved in Fort Collins fee study as well. And it's fun to get to see this in a different context of a different community. So,
Molly, quick question. Are those fees monthly?
Those are per household per month.
Per household per month. Thank you.
Yeah. So I also want to just talk a little bit about sort of the context of your residential hauling program and sort of the why behind this study. So just thinking about sort of how your program has evolved, it dates back to 2008. And really in these last 5 years, the program has grown quite considerably, particularly through the addition of adding compost and moving to the pay-as-you-throw volume-based pricing. Those two changes have, been pretty significant changes for your program. The next few years looking out are also likely to see some more changes. First, the state of Colorado's extended producer responsibility bill comes into effect. I know Martin had mentioned that earlier this evening in your discussion. And that new law will direct producers of packaging to reimburse for the recycling of their products. And it also expands which products can be recycled curbside, which is going to impact really all Colorado towns with recycling, including Superior. And so you can imagine how that may have impacts to your program. And then in 2028, the town's program will expand to absorb an additional 2,800 HOA households. So each time new households join the contract, there are increased customer service needs, new billing accounts to set up, education and outreach about the town's program. There's quite a lot of sort of additional work in those kind of high demand years. So the town, based, as you add HOA households in, you'll also need to renegotiate your contract to be able to just accommodate those additional households. And then in 2029, to just stay on your sort of regular schedule of updating your contract, there will be another contract negotiation. So a lot of work coming for your program in the coming years. And just the key takeaways here is that your program really has grown to provide more regionally comparable services to the community. And there are more changes on the horizon. And with those changes, they brought and will likely continue to bring opportunities to your town. And also they take a lot of resources to support. So that's sort of a little bit the why behind why explore potentially charging an administrative fee. Now I want to talk a little bit about the how of an administrative fee. So really, just to ground everyone a little bit in how this works, I'm going to go through the process briefly, and folks may have more detailed questions. I'm happy to take those in sort of the questions and conversation portion of our evening. But in short, I work with town staff to really collect all the data about the current program and then the anticipated conditions for sort of coming years. And then as part of these conversations, we work together to identify an appropriate fee period. So that's typically set to coincide with a contract term, right? Each contract might be slightly different, which may impact how much work will be needed and how many resources go into it. In Superior's case, it also coincides with a future steady state for once the program has all of those new households joined. So that's a little bit sort of about how we're looking at this over time. And once I know the costs projected for the fee period, then I just divide those costs by the number of participating households and the number of months in the fee period, and that's how we get to that fee per household per month. And then I also looked at some scenarios, including what a fee would look like if we included expanded program costs. As I mentioned on that sort of what is an administrative fee study, some communities it do include sort of a broader look and including things like household hazardous waste. So we looked at that as well as a scenario. And then we looked at sort of the difference between what I was calling operationally typical years and then sort of high or peak demand years, where an operationally typical year may just be sort of the program is running along as normal, whereas sort of a high demand year would be a contract renegotiation, adding HOA households, adjusting potentially what can be accepted curbside, all of these things that can sort of drive some community need from the program. And then after I took all of that information and looked at these different scenarios, I also looked again at sort of the regional fees to put the findings for Superior in context. And those regional fees are what I showed on that slide, just sort of in the ground setting piece, but just those are your regional comps. So all of that leads to some key findings for Superior. So I put all of my findings in the final study report, but just a few I think that are sort of crucial for a little bit of conversation this evening. The fee supported to recover average program costs. So if we just look at the average program cost across the whole fee period, that comes out to $3.52 per household per month. So you might recall those regional fees I showed at the beginning of the presentation, and notice that $3.52 is a bit higher than the other regional fees. So while it is common to set a fee based on average costs, we also looked at those operationally typical and high demand year scenarios as well. So the scenario analysis showed that if we just look at operationally typical years, the fee would be $2.37 per household per month, which is much closer to those other regional fees, meaning it may make sense to explore partial cost recovery at that lower rate. If a lower fee was set based on those more typical years, you would then need around $150,000 per year in addition to the fee revenue to cover the full program cost in a really high demand year. So in a year where you have a lot of program activity, you would then need supplemental funding if you were to set it at the lower rate. So there's considerations that go alongside those findings, and we'll talk about those a little bit more in a second. But before we move on from the findings, I just wanted to note two other things. One of the real primary drivers of this fee analysis is staffing. That is very typical in almost every community because a lot of the work is people time. And then the other thing that was a little bit unique to the town study was that your small size is actually a big driver in your results. So the smaller household base just means that there are fewer households to spread the program cost over. And that results in a slightly higher fee per household. So I'm happy to come back to any of this, but I do want to just touch a little bit more on the considerations for how to sort of put these findings in context to continue exploring. So as I just mentioned, there are some considerations on whether to set a fee that recovers full program costs versus maybe one that recovers partial costs and then supplements that with funding for high demand years. I think one thing to keep in mind when you think about that is that generally full cost recovery, including expanded program costs and high demand years, really going pretty expansive and comprehensive is a best practice. We've seen several cities reporting that they've had to go back and adjust the fee upward to be more comprehensive of the true costs of the program. And I've already noted that Superior's small participating household base really means it would take a higher fee than typically seen in Colorado to do that. So again, a compromise may be to cover increased resource needs in high demand years with supplemental funding and be able to set the sort of base rate at a lower rate. So the downside of that solution, of course, is that in tough financial times, that could mean the program is a little bit underfunded in critical years. So certainly things there sort of for some robust conversation and further exploration for you all and your leaders. I'm happy to share a little bit more about how we got to these numbers or those considerations in a moment, but just to share where this information heads next, I'll be summarizing and incorporating your feedback from this evening, and then your council will receive a summary of today's discussion and all of the materials and report, and then have the option to have a similar briefing at a future date. And with that, I'm happy to answer questions. I know there's a lot of information packed into that, so let me know where you'd like to take that. I will leave the slides up just for a few minutes in case anyone would like me to go back or has maybe a more specific question that I may have some additional data slides if you have something.
Thanks a lot, Molly. That's great. Yeah, we do have a few questions. I guess we'll start with John.
Hey, Molly, appreciate that. Good to get the insight on what is these fees and what it might look like for us. On one slide, you said that there's in high impact years a potential of $150,000 of increased funding required. Was that in comparison or in a scenario where we're using the $2.41 fee? So 150 over the funds brought in from 241 or the 356?
Yeah, so 241 would be if you said we're going to base the fee on sort of operationally typical years. So like more of our base operations. The tricky thing is that not every year is a base operation, right? And you have some things coming down the pike to you all that are certainly going to exceed that and be more of those high demand years. So that would be that if we include all of what is predicted to come, that's the 356. And if we look at just the sort of more steady state base program needs, that's the 241.
The 150K extra is if we're implementing it at 251 or 356?
Correct. So is the 150,000 supplemental would be if you set it at 241 and said in high demand years, we'll need supplemental funding, perhaps from a general fund.
Appreciate that. And like, what would be the, use of, what would drive the 150K? Like, what is a high demand year requiring us to do? Are we hiring a full-time staff? Or what's going on there?
So this is not necessarily like incremental funding. This is looking at your existing staff time and where it's going. So it may be then that your entire waste staff is tied up with this for that year, and that would imply that maybe something else doesn't get done. But it also is it's just assuming things like education and outreach. So for example, you all had additional households. So basically what we looked at is like, what were some things that you did recently that would mirror some of the changes, like bringing HOA households in? And we looked, for example, at the outreach and education costs. So those would be sort of like the incremental costs that would be wrapped up in that 150,000. So it's increased outreach and education, it's increased staff time. Sort of those are the primary drivers.
One of my basic questions, what's your definition of a high demand year versus an average year? Can you give examples?
Yeah, here, let's go into, let's see. So I think this may be a little bit helpful in seeing, you can see what the FTE share estimated for a high demand year is versus an operationally typical year. And so we looked then at salaries and how this is then playing, like what it's costing to administer your program in terms of staff time in a year that there's no changes. It's really just, taking the occasional question. It's making sure that, hauler communication is going well, sort of those baseline things. But as soon as you have to renegotiate a contract, help explain new changes to the community, like with pay as you throw, all of that takes a significantly higher amount of staff time.
It has nothing to do with the volume of trash. It's not high demand that you have more trash to deal with.
It's more programmatic need.
It's more.
Yeah, this is all.
So what is the changes going on in the programs?
So education, contract negotiations, RFP issuing, that's a high demand year.
Answering questions.
High demand for programmatic or staff resources.
Exactly.
So right now, if you think about it, the utility is typically going to be an enterprise fund, which has to be wholly paid for everything associated with it. So everything that's associated with your water bill and your water utility has to be borne as part of that bill itself. The general fund, which supplies the majority of funding for most of the services that are provided by the town, whether that's planning or streets or police resources or legal resources or fire, those are all things that are pulled out of the general fund. And so when you have an extra $150,000 of resources that is being pulled from the general fund to support a pass-through utility service like this, that's when it makes sense as a budget policy discussion for the elected officials to say, what makes sense to think about as an appropriate fee to pass on to the customers here? Because right now the general fund is bearing the weight of that. And as somebody that's spent hundreds of hours on 3 different versions of our waste contract over the last 10 years, it's a very real thing. And Molly did a great job of working with me and Alexis trying to apply some logic to this, to try and sort it out and show what a busier year, whenever there's a transition, how many hundreds of hours that translates into for our time. And then also for, that's a high demand year.
Okay.
And then the time that she and I spent with our utility billing staff and our communications staff and all the outreach and education that it took. I try not to think about how many hundreds of hours it is, but it's a substantial amount right now. The cost associated with staff is all completely borne by the general fund.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's funding that couldn't be used to other projects.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you.
I do have just a comment. I think our town is super efficient at what you guys accomplish with such a small staff. And I'm 100% behind this because we are hurting our town because you are putting time here that you're not allowed to put time in other things. And we, the residents, should be bearing the cost of this program. This is just another cost of implementing this. And when you divide that cost amongst the residents, then it's affordable to a town.
And that's really a great way to put the policy kind of question. You know, every year we go through the budget process with the elected officials and think, what's going to make sense for adjusting and thinking through what fees are going to look like across all the utilities and all the fees associated with all the services that are provided by the town. And looking for alternative resources or alternative revenue sources is always going to be part of that discussion. It's not that this is good or bad, it's just what are the options out there. This is a norm for jurisdictions that contract out residential waste pickup. And it's an option, it's a card tool that used to be in the elected officials toolbox. And at some point it might make sense, but having Molly come in and help us logically put it together and show what it looks like at a policy perspective, that was really the premise here. And it was a great exercise to do from a staff perspective. And eventually, if it makes sense for our elected officials to think through what it might look like as our contract changes, in July of 2028, we're going to have 3,000 more customers, what that's going to look like, or what a different level of service is going to look like. So there's just a lot of pieces to it.
I did have a question about how you came up with the numbers. Was this based on the number of households currently in the contract, or did it take into account that we're adding the 2,800?
It takes into account that it's the future steady state that we looked at. I think we have.
So did you base it
here
on
so
the
you can see
2,800 added or not?
So the
20,
this is the fee period we looked at 2028 through 2032 to try to really get a sense of your future steady state. Having more having a steady number of households is really important. And it also, this is, I think, the best sort of long-term way to be able to look at setting a fee, so that you don't set something and then have a different household base that then perhaps changes the fee needs within a short period of time. This is also likely to more or less align with the next contract phase for you all. So this is when I was talking about we work together to figure out what fee period is going to make sense. And this was the fee period that we came up with.
Okay, so it was based on once Rock Creek's added.
Yeah,
okay.
But it certainly doesn't preclude you from, you can implement the fee sooner than this. This is just the basis for the analysis.
We tried to, if I remember correctly, Molly, you told for inflation and a standard 3% inflator for merit increases for staff. So you should try to normalize it over 5 years, what those total expenses are, and then divide it up on an annual basis.
Exactly.
I did have another question. Do you want to ask yours? So would this mean the staff you would consider hiring more staff? Because right now, what I understand is you and Alexis were already on board, but just diverted you from other activities you might have done with your.
That's a good way to put it. So
so would you be hiring?
Depends on what it would really depend on what the needs of the program are. Once the HOA becomes part of the town's contract, it takes significant amount of hours, and it might make sense to have somebody during a transition year to come help supplement.
So bring on a temporary staff member to help you with that.
That would. We just want to recognize that the general fund is bearing that isn't being captured anywhere else.
So right now, the general fund is paying for this. Is that?
And it's historically paid for this. I'm guessing we've never done this before.
No,
right.
Other utilities do. Water, wastewater, and the landscape fee also. Landscape fee with concrete.
2028 and 2029 make sense for why they'd be high demand years. How often do high demand years come up beyond, major expansion and a renewal? Like how long are our contracts for?
4 or 5 years, and we've done both. 1 year that we had Waste Connections, they had a 5-year term for theirs in order to get a better price, and our elected officials at the time chose to go with that. And that's pretty typical.
And once Rock Creek has been added in, are there any other factors that would result in a high demand year other than contract renewals?
Well, Molly didn't talk about the Producer Responsibility Act, but it's some programmatic changes that require a significant amount of staff time. So not knowing what EPR is going to look like next year, I don't know if I want to think about it too much, but it's going to require some significant community education. And right now, that the complete volume of that time that's borne by staff will be absorbed by the general fund.
Yeah.
If there's any enhanced level of education that happens maybe the year before the HOA becomes a part of this, to share some significant hours or additional research from consultants like Molly need to help inform what that policy discussion looks like, that would be something that would have to be budgeted again out of the general. So it's any variables that come up. Right now, there's nothing in the waste collection fee that has anything in it other than what the bill is that we get from Republic. If it's anything beyond that, there is no recognition of it in our budget.
All right, so my input would be that this goes into our 4-year plan, because that'll go into the communication around why there's an extra $3.50 or whatever it is when we get to that point. Because that communication going out that fee is implemented at the exact same time Rock Creek comes on board. It's kind of like, it's $3.41. It makes me bang my head against the wall that this is a problem, but it is a problem. It's a communications problem. It's now we have another fee, and when are we going to do the next fee? So I think what's really important is to capture all the time and dollar equation spent, especially in the coming year ahead as this onboards, so that we can say this is that $3.41 is actually a value of X to the town. Then we also have our neighboring fees that are in our neighboring towns, which are all lower. So we'll need to combat that and understand why ours is higher.
Well, for now, some of them
Right, and it might change.
some of them are talking about it.
And I'm sure that'll be the case. I'm just calling it what I'm kind of seeing here as the current case. Because we already know it's going to be a headache with Rock Creek onboarding. I am curious, Molly, from the EPR standpoint, is there a benefit that will be passed along to residents in this process? Right, there should be. But I don't know how it's going to be passed on, but it would be a story to reflect back on. People are going to forget any benefit they get if it's in early 2026 when they see it, and then a fee goes in 2028, they're not going to remember they got that benefit. So we need to make sure to retie that together, is that EPR is providing you this, but as this program evolves, we'll need to put we need more resources to support the administrative burden of handling waste. That will be going into play as Rock Creek comes on in 2028. I mean, it's not too early to start that messaging.
Right.
So
People already were upset with the waste contract from people I know, because they're paying a lot more. At least the people with big containers.
Yeah.
We got the smallest container.
So remember when we talked about the waste, there is an overall waste for it, like Rock Creek HOA, for example, they negotiate a big one price with the hauler, Waste Connections. And then they divide it up for residents. They divide it up equally, despite some people using a lot of trash cans.
I'm not arguing with that.
Right, so what my point is, the messaging, I would call this fee, it's a value added fee. What are we adding to our town? We are adding a very thought-provoked, value-added contract. Thank you.
Excellent.
And so that's and I compare the difference to, as a resident of Rock Creek HOA, my experience with my HOA and the lack of communication, the lack of involvement, the lack of listening to what my needs are, compared to what the town is doing with the town contract. Two totally different experiences on the spectrum. I much prefer what the town has done on this last contract: thoughtful assessment, thoughtful cost analysis, thoughtful comparison, benchmarking to my other neighborhood communities. That's my value added for paying this fee. So I see it as that.
Next level of service.
It's
any utility or any broadband.
But that's, it's a,
and I don't think you're being defensive. It's the way it's been communicated.
it's ways being communicated, right?
And I think in a year, there'll be people like your neighbors, maybe not your neighbors, maybe your neighbors, who have changed their behaviors and been able to reduce their cart size if they want to.
Right.
And so there will be those stories coming out.
Right.
So we need to reflect those stories
Right.
back out, part of the plan of communication. Who has changed from a 96-gallon bin down to a 32-gallon bin and reduced their costs, and who is totally fine with it. And the more it gets normalized that is a perfectly appropriate way to live and you can do it, the more people will do it and buy into it. There'll always be holdouts.
Yeah, I had a couple more questions for Molly.
Yeah.
We're internally talking, but Molly, so then you're saying that the 241 or whatever the fee is, that is like the next 5-year outlook. Like you pull all the future costs back to today, and that would be a constant 241 for the next 5 years. Is that how you did your analysis? Or is that just between today and 2028 until Rock Creek comes on board?
Yeah, so the fee period is from 2028 through 2032. You could start
So this
charging
fee
the
would start in
fee
2028. Okay.
You could start charging the fee sooner, but this is looking at the
Sure.
program costs divided by the household base per month. So this is about
Well,
what your
why are
program
we-
needs.
Why are we charging it for the next 3 years? If the
This will, I guess I appreciate everybody wanting to be very specific about when this is gonna start and how it's gonna work. This is a policy exercise that we did as part of our budget work over the last year to have for council consideration, thinking through what all our utility fees are gonna be and what potential revenue sources are. Because every year it's a
So
very.
it's more of a study at this point.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, it's not, this isn't going in.
Yeah.
Effect next.
Yeah, it's just like Molly listed, it's an administrative fee study process. The elected officials have a very difficult job every time we go through a budget process to say, okay,
So
here are,
yes.
what are our utility fee increases gonna be? Because there is going to be additional costs to provide water, sewer, and stormwater, and all the things that are associated with those utilities, figuring out how to either absorb costs and spread those over 5 years or a longer time. The infrastructure cost to make a substantial improvement to the wastewater treatment plant is gonna be tens of millions of dollars. How do you plan for that? And how do you budget for it? Just like you would in your own home, and try to give our elected officials something that makes sense so that customers, our utility customers, aren't hit with a 25% increase in 1 year and a 2% increase,
Spread out.
smoothing it out in a way that makes sense to make sure that we're making the right expense at the right time, and then also trying to make sure that our utility customers aren't hit with a huge increase all at once.
No, that makes sense. So this is when Rock Creek comes on board is when this fee, if it goes into effect. This is already factoring in the 2,800 homes.
Yes,
This is not the number of homes right now.
correct.
Yes.
Okay,
So thinking through 5 years,
okay.
Molly very wisely said, well, here's when you're gonna have the biggest variable change. Let's start that year and then normalize it over those.
Okay, all right, okay, I guess that wasn't clear to me. And then the other question I had is, why is our fee higher than the other regions? Is it purely because of the denominator and the number of homes? Or did you look into administrative approaches and efficiencies that Town of Superior has over these other municipalities that have lower fees?
Staffing and
We
homes.
did. Martin, would you like me to talk a little bit about our peer
Well,
community?
it could be a straight up answer. If it's the denominator and we have smaller number of houses, boom, that's my answer. But I don't know what part of your consulting gets into actually looking at how does Fort Collins manage their program, Lafayette, Louisville, and maybe they're using better software. Maybe they're more efficient at it. Maybe they've been doing it for 25 years and they have it locked down. But like, why? I mean, that's a pretty substantial jump, to go from $1.50 on average up to $2.50.
So there's an item, so Molly, I'll start this. So this is if all the programmatic costs were recouped and recovered through this fee.
Yeah.
The jurisdictions, I think pretty much everybody that we talked to, the ones that I'm familiar with, they don't get that level of recovery.
Yeah.
So part of the policy discussion for the elected officials might be, well, we don't know that we can make this significant of an increase to a monthly fee, but we might do something like what our neighbors do, which is charge $1 for that $2 or $2.41 that might be necessary to have a complete recovery.
Well, I think that's an important data point to show the elected officials is that part of all 4 of those are coming, half that's only subsidizing some of the costs, and the other half is coming out of the general fund.
In Molly's analysis, she has a lot of information.
Okay, I know we got the executive summary, but yeah, I mean, if I was an elected official, I'd be like, well, how's Louisville? Well, Louisville would be closer to 241, but how's Lafayette over half the amount? And yeah, it's just, okay,
And I would just
It's a policy decision for every jurisdiction.
yeah.
And I would
Got
just
it. Well, those are all my
add-
questions.
just add a little bit of context to that, that as we talk to other communities, where we were able to see what their programs looked like and what was included, that they were comparable activities, comparable program costs. It really, we don't have the level of like exact insight to see where might you be a little more expensive or not, but the denominator does make a big difference. And if you think about, there are just some activities that don't scale with community size. Like it will take the town of Superior and the city of Fort Collins about the same amount of staff time to negotiate a contract, even though those are dramatically different sized communities. So I think that's when I was saying that one of the really interesting findings that's a little bit unique to you all is the denominator being so much smaller. And I think Martin is totally correct that we know from talking to some of these folks that they are not recovering their full cost. And they're actually, a few have noted that they are going to try to go back and increase these fees to try to be more comprehensive. And so, yeah, I think it's a little bit on both sides of that.
Martin, am I understanding Molly saying that our denominator is cute? small, so it's just, we just have a cute little denominator.
We'll just call it pocket denominator.
Pocket.
Well,
Molly thinks about this in much more sophisticated terms.
Well, I think she's, I think I've given just a approximate.
I do.
It does help. So we're just a smaller market.
Yeah.
So if you have a similar expense, so a lot of the things that we mentioned earlier, when you talk about being a smaller community, we are nimble and flexible, and we're able to do a lot of things with a small staff and make some big policy shifts. Because there's not a lot of different layers in service delivery here, but on something like this, it doesn't necessarily pan out as beneficial.
So what I say is, I mean, this, I think this is I really value bringing this to us for just to get knowledgeable about it. But Miles, your point about how we need to integrate this into our communications about this, I think is a critical one. And it's also one that I think that we've got the ability to do that. We've got the ability to advocate for what the town is looking at. By the way, as a resident, I would say, make it $4. You know, just go ahead and bring it all. You might as well. I mean, yeah, $4 a month. That's what we're going to spend. I'll spend it.
Show Superior. Get your voice out there.
Why not? Why not? Literally.
And do it earlier.
But let's do it.
20, I complain.
Yes. And one resident. We should be adding this into our communications process. I think that's the thing I'm thinking.
Right,
about.
that's, yeah.
So John, you touched on exactly why it makes sense to talk about this now. If there's going to be a substantial policy decision for our elected officials a couple of summers from now, what makes sense to start talking about now so that we can have that, which we've just known 2 years ago. It started this discussion 2 years ago. Where would we be now when it comes time to make that decision? Those are the, I guess that's kind of the next step for this. The next logical sequence is, if you're going to think about cost recovery and how it translates when you're going to have a big programmatic change like is on the horizon for us, does it make sense to start doing something now? And obviously community engagement, community education, just like you're describing, it's going to be a big part of it. Regardless of what the policy decision is, just how we operationalize this is going to be a big topic of staff time and energy and discussion for a long time to go.
Because it's a pass through and a fee, it doesn't need to have any kind of public support in terms of like a vote to make it happen, right? It's not a tax per se. So they're like, this wouldn't need to be publicly approved.
The town council goes through a hearing process, a long deliberate process to finalize what our utility fees are going to be. Yeah. So absolutely there would be a community voice in this, but it would be
not something like
right. What happens in 2033? So you put 5 years out. Would that fee continue as part of administration or
and see if there's any large landscape change?
Or is there a sunset to that?
Same kind of thing at all the fees that are associated with the town every year. Well, it would be up to the town council at that time when they have the fees resolution, whether it's landscape fee, any of the fees that are associated with utility, those are approved on a year by year basis. Nothing's more than, nothing's ever longer.
Okay.
So Molly picked this 5-year range, but it could be 10 years, could be 20 years, but this is the one we feel comfortable enough to, I think, in Molly's estimation, makes sense to say, practically when you account for salary, for staffing, for what our current contractor is able to do at this level, and then projected over 5 years, it's a little more, maybe I don't know what the word is, maybe a safer projection, Molly. Anything beyond that gets a little more of us.
One of the things to think about is the HR costs. If you don't support staff in doing this, we get higher turnover in staff. And we do not want that. So when you show that you, as a town, that you are supporting staff, knowing with these heavy lift years, we tend to keep our staff. Turnover is not something we want in our staff.
It makes it difficult, yes.
So in an HR perspective, it's important to cover the cost of programs and the public share their, it's just like extended producer responsibility. We are saying you are going to share in the cost of the administration of this program, which is right. Otherwise, we have high turnover, which is another cost, hidden cost with hidden consequences that we didn't think about. So I'm just saying, think about it now.
Yeah, there's just a lot of variables. Just like some folks like John are very not as price sensitive. There are some folks that, like Lisa, you mentioned, you have some neighbors that are very sensitive and very unhappy with this. It completely runs the entire spectrum. And we hear from all of them, and it's not one of those things where you can answer somebody's question with you're right, you're wrong, or here's someplace in the middle. Everybody has their own where they think makes policy sense for the community to be, and it might not always be the same.
I mean, kind of like what we did when we were comparing the price of what people were paying, through Rock Creek or other trash contracts before, to new trash contract that's pay as you throw. Is there a way we can dig into where call it the connection fee for waste pickup is that people are paying right now? Because it's buried somewhere. We're paying it through our HOA fees, which is going to the HOA, which is going to our trash hauler. But I think people need to know that, hey, you're paying for this right now. It's not like it's free. Someone is
Well,
paying
yeah,
for it.
Rock Creek is unusual because it's all part of your HOA.
It's
right?
exactly, it's
They
buried
don't
20 layers
buy
deep,
them.
and I'm just trying to figure out that, I think,
Including the yard waste.
I think people need to know that this isn't free. This is coming at a cost through your taxes, it's going to general fund, through HOA fees. Like, it'd be nice to, I don't know. if
Yeah,
we're-
that's
true
why
cost
you
recovery.
have even
So this gives
more
us a way to
difficult
start
Yeah.
this dialogue, at least from the town perspective. The information that we have, we can share what our actual costs are, what our time and resources are
Yeah.
spent on. We can show, you don't have to like it, but it absolutely is what it is, and how other folks who provide that resource, whether it's the HOA or another community, that's up to them.
Yeah, but my point is that someone is having to do the same work right now
Right.
as the town's gonna have to do that work when they have the contract. So what's that cost right now per month? To her point, she thinks it's going up $4 a month, but it could be $350 a month right now. And it's just buried in our annual HOA check that we pay every year.
Well, the HOA level of service hasn't changed in more than a decade.
Yeah.
So if you guys ever have a change in your level of service, that would require, regardless of whether or not I agree with it,
Administrative fee.
just to
Okay.
share what it is.
Right.
It's gonna be a big.
But from an equity standpoint, I think it's nice that people know, like, oh, am I really paying $1.50 right now? Oh, it's gonna go up incremental 75 cents a month. Who cares about that?
True program cost is an important thing to know.
If you're good with that level of service, and that's gonna be good.
Well, no, but I'm just saying, someone has to put together the bills, do the RFP, send all that stuff out. I mean, this is being paid through the town's general fund, which is all supported by the taxpayers.
Mhm.
So
yeah,
we are paying for it.
Yeah, that's why.
I mean, that's my whole point. It's like,
That's
we
why
are
I'm
technically
Paying for the roads, you're paying for the grass, you're paying
paying
for all
for getting paid for it. It's not just free.
Yeah.
And so I guess I think you gotta get people in the right mindset. Lisa's a good example of that. This is not a brand new fee.
All right.
You're already paying
That's how
for it
people
now.
will see it though.
That's how people will see it. And that's why you need to have a comparison to, well, what's it costing you now?
Mhm.
I think-
15 minutes left, so I want to call on agenda item.
Yeah, we have one more agenda.
Yeah.
We have 15 minutes and the next agenda item is 10 minutes.
Sure.
No, I
Exactly.
just being.
But thank you
The general
for,
fund does bear a lot of things that aren't necessarily explicit.
Yeah.
That's a good thing about it.
Molly.
thank you, Molly.
So
That was
hopefully we
great.
get you some food for file and I'll spin this.
Thanks
to
so
the
much.
council.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for
Thanks, Mike.
having me.
All right, have a good evening. Any final thoughts on this, or?
That was good. Thank you for.
Yeah, that's really good.
Oh, thanks for putting up with this. We've
Yeah.
been working on this for months. And
Yeah.
it's one of those things, once we started getting into it, it was great. Great to kind of think through. Molly did a great job with martial arts.
We met with the HOA, and I think you can watch that if you want, but we had a discussion about the gas.
I'm sure.
Oh,
I think I saw part of that.
We'll save that for Pat's after the meeting.
yeah.
And we should get our next agenda item out of the way. Any final thoughts before we jump to, okay, last agenda item, holiday event volunteers. So I think we've already kind of penciled some of this out already.
So, yeah, let's nail it down.
So we got the one coming up at the FCC.
Yeah, so we have on
That's the bazaar.
December 6th, the Sister Cities Holiday Bazaar here. We have an
It's gonna be
obligation.
in this building.
Yes, we have an obligation from 10 AM to 3 PM. And that's when we're going to raffle off all the swag that we just bought for reusable gift wrap, the produce bags and the rechargeable batteries. I do have a request. I'll set everything up. I'll be there. If I can be there from 10 to 1, if you can cover me 1 to 3, there is a winter sowing, how to plant native plants from the Friends of Cold Creek training program they're doing in Lafayette from 1 to 3 on that Saturday that I'd like to attend. And then we will be planting winter sowing plants, and then having native plants to be able to give to the Friends of Cold Creek to be able to plant along Cold Creek. One of which the town of Superior was a benefactor this past summer of that program.
So you're looking for coverage from 1 to 3.
1 to 3, yeah. And to know, hopefully, we will be debuting the new machine, little pinball machine that
Yeah,
Mindy's students have done that.
Saving money the swag for the Winterfest.
That's what I want to ask you. So the Winterfest, is a fun activity and that's going to be downtown Superior.
Lisa and I did that.
Yeah.
last year.
Right,
That
you
next year.
two did that.
And people love the
So,
things.
The fall crap.
yeah, so I would like to save, if you
Yeah, I
guys
think we
agree.
should save some of it for that.
What is your avail? I cannot be there on the Winterfest.
I was planning on the winter.
That'd be great.
I can cover you 1 to 3.
Okay, great, on
on the
December
Bazaar, December
6th.
6th.
So
So I'll take that one, but I probably.
I mean, I can
Winterfest.
cover the whole winter
I
fest.
can do the Winterfest.
So Lisa and I,
Okay.
again,
I think that Patrick and I both have said yes on the 12/6 thing.
Yeah, so,
So-
you can, do you know
I'm
what
always
time
open
you'd
now
like
to
to
check
come?
it out.
I haven't thought about it. I mean, we can, I was planning on being there the whole time, so.
I
Okay,
was gonna say, do you guys want to split up and have one person take, what time's the bazaar?
10 to 3.
10 to 3, so
5 hours.
if one of you wants to do 10 to 1, and then one of you wants to come in 1 to 3, maybe we can do 2
Yeah.
to 2,
We'll talk on that.
rotate it.
We can talk without voting on the email.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. So this.
Okay, so Miles, Michelle, John,
Okay.
Patrick on the
Yeah.
Winterfest,
But don't use your real name.
or no, the Holiday Bazaar, and then me and Lisa on the
Winterfest.
Winterfest.
And we will save materials for you to raffle off
Yeah.
on the
Maybe
Winterfest.
just a gift wrap.
Yeah.
That went over well.
Okay. That sounds
Or
great.
do you want to do the batteries too? I don't know.
It doesn't hurt me.
It doesn't matter.
We'll give you half of it.
It's just easier.
Yeah.
You should have one thing.
What's the timing on the Winterfest again?
The winter, 1 to 5 on the 13th.
So 4 hours there, 5 hours there, so. We'll give you,
And I guess as far as the hand
I'll give you one.
material, I could always meet you down there. Well, I'm gonna come to
I'll
the
give
Holiday
you,
Bazaar.
yeah, and I'll give you the material after
Yeah,
we're done.
I know where you.
Yeah,
see where
I'll have it in a
Have
box.
this hour to have things for sale and what? What is it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the whole,
the whole
yeah,
area
there's
is-
crafters
Oh, okay.
and the whole idea of that bazaar is they give a portion of their revenue to the sister cities.
Oh, okay. Well, I probably want to come shop.
Yeah, it's a good shot. I brought my daughter.
And just, so you know, I'm setting up a activity to stamp, gift tags. So that's gonna be our fun activity, but people will make gift tags that they can put on their presents. And it's all be made from old Christmas cards, old holiday cards and rubber stamps and old strings and stuff. So, and I believe Alexa's put in her notes that Lex Shannon from EcoCycle is gonna join
Yes.
us on the holiday bazaar one.
For me, it was.
Yeah, so we'll help
Should be a
recruit
good holiday
more
bazaar.
eco leaders and do the zero waste holiday living that you could do to try to reduce your waste during that time.
All right, so I think we're
Think we
coordinating.
Yeah,
Are we
great,
coordinating? Questions?
awesome.
And then, yeah, real quick is, Michelle said the engineering expo is this Saturday at CU and I'll be demoing
And what time
the
is
pinball
it?
machine. I'll send out an email with directions to ACES.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
there's the public, like, there's the judging part that John and I are helping judging, like the
Okay.
first 2 hours, and there's the public part. So I don't know if the news made it to you, but, we were able to work with a group of engineering students that kind of upgrade our spinning wheel into something more technologically advanced. It's looking like a
It
big.
sounded a lot more sophisticated than the meeting notes from last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a little desktop pinball machine that they put together. So they get to present it to judges from industry that, I mean, John are volunteering. I've been doing it for a long time. They get judged and then they get graded on their project and then they turn it over to their client. So
Do we have any more budget available where they could try to pay us off? So we don't
yeah,
have to get our team to win.
yeah.
We appreciate
I
you,
think
Jim.
we're gonna be chosen another team, suggest John.
We do appreciate Jim's connection with that, because that's,
Yeah.
we're really excited about
Yeah,
that.
that'll
The
be
students
nice.
presented to us at one meeting last week, so we're excited to get our hands on that music. So,
All right, well, any final thoughts before motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
yes, BBSD students, sorry. What questions do you have for us?
I was just curious, like, where it falls on your list of priorities and like what projects it would take precedence over?
I would say that it is a part of one of our highest priorities, which is to look at how we're expanding all of our waste program to include composting. But this is kind of a specific element of how are we going to make sure that we can pay for this appropriately within the town structure.
Okay, so then that fee would also go towards what you were talking about with that recycling issue in public areas?
No.
Actually, no, because that's an internal, town management
Okay,
problem that they can manage with their existing staff. It wouldn't take additional staff.
okay,
To make
so then
sure.
where does that fall on your priorities as well?
The recycling in town,
Yeah,
in the public parks.
you were talking about, yeah, how it gets contaminated and
Right.
can no longer be recycled.
I think that will be something that, one, we can handle internally in this meeting and with our town staff, and it's a high priority because I think it's an easy solution with communication.
Yeah, then we put it on our 2026 work plan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, buddy. You guys have any other questions? Do you know what ACES stands for?
What does ACES stand for, this meeting?
We are the ACES.
We are the ACES. The Advisory Committee on Environmental Sustainability. That's what ACES stands for. So-
Yeah,
And so we advise the town council, formerly the town board, on sustainability related issues. And sometimes they kick stuff to us, we're like, hey, ACES, what do you think about this? And sometimes we present stuff to them. It's kind of a two-way street, less relationship back and forth.
yeah. So there's actually no parallel in your student organizations to what we do. Like you have student government, which is student government is like what town council couches on. You do things, you have power to do things. We really don't have the power, we advise.
Yeah.
So we would kind of be like a faculty advisor. We're like a faculty advisor.
And we rely on that a lot because we could not do all of these detailed things, all these projects. We have multiple advisory committees and they're all informing us. So then we go, okay, they've done the research and they've done the work so we can make decisions on the information that you're giving us. It's really helpful.
So in our town, we have 9 advisory councils, one of which is teens, Superior Youth Leadership Council.
Yeah. Do you know about that?
I have not heard about that. So we call it
Yeah.
SYLC.
So they're always looking for members. So they want to get involved.
Yeah.
And
It's for Superior residents though.
Yeah.
Right? So you might, I know you might go to Monarch and.
Yeah.
but they have their own youth advisory councils. BVSD also has a sustainability advisory council that you could look at getting on. We have there were students from all high schools and some middle schools on that. So something worth looking into.
Good thing to put on your college application.
What's
And go for the seal of climate literacy while you're at it. You all can get it.
That's right.
Already applied.
Yeah.
What's
Also, if
the-
you're reading e-bikes, you're not supposed to stop it.
Yeah,
E-motorcycles.
Jen should give you a ticket.
Because we care.
Yeah, because
E-bikes are okay if they're less than 20. That's
Okay? They know.
They know.
They know.
So what's the name of the class you guys are in?
US government.
Oh, US government. Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mr. McCoy,
Yeah.
the council member in Longmont,
Oh, sweet.
and then teacher.
You guys go to Superior, Louisville, or?
I live in Louisville.
Yeah. Cool.
I'm severe.
Nice. Yeah, Louisville has one of these committees too. Did you know that?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
were looking for, like, which meeting we wanted to attend. you know,
Yeah.
Where our values lie and what we want to address for the town.
Awesome.
Good. What college do you want to go to?
University of British Columbia.
Nice.
Yes, I am a Canadian citizen,
Oh,
so
cool.
cheaper.
Yeah, full time.
We've been on.
We never played.
I think we'll have a lot of changes by 2028.
I move that we adjourn.
Move. First motion adjourned.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
It's like on station.
Yeah.
Oh, who took the picture?
I do, so somebody needs to.
Got it.
I'm fine.
Martin was the one that emailed you all the info.
Yeah.
So just he can send it to that email, I guess, right?
You don't hear from me.
Well, I think we did save it on,
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, Martin, do you need a summary from John on the meeting to go into the weekend?
Oh, they're like the fourth.
like a little.
You can send